Hi everybody. I'm live, of course. This is Empowering Democracy. I'm your host, Joe Firestone, and this is one of our changes following a likely Russian victory in Ukraine show. And this is part 23. It's about the BRICS 15 show. I'm about to be joined by Dee Pierce, the host of Around the World with Dee and Friends. And here she
Hello.
is.
Yeah, I'm testing too to see if it works with your StreamYard, if everything's okay with your StreamYard, because this reminds me of what Willie Bragg had the problem when the first time he tried to do an interview with me.
Ah, I see.
And then StreamYard gave him a new account. There was a problem with the account, the StreamYard links. So far it's
Okay.
looking that way. I'm able to hear you. Unless I don't be able to hear you, then I'll know it's something else.
Okay, very good.
Oh
Uh,
man.
hang on just a second, though. Okay, if
I
you
think I'm
would.
gonna have to go. I can't hear you right now. I think it's my computer.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I'll be in the comments
Okay, very good.
on my phone.
Okay, see ya. Okay, so I'm going to be with you in just a second. I have to say something to Bonnie. Okay. So she's not accessible now. So I'm going to go on with the show. So, as you know, the BRICS meetings have been going on for 3 days this week. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They are now done. Here's Bonnie right now. So I have to say something to her. So, okay, I'm going to. Okay, we're back. Okay, so the BRICS conference has been going on for 3 days this week. Uh, it's going on in the shadow. Steve Day is here and says hello. Hello, Steve Day. It's going on in the shadow, okay, of the Ukraine war, of course. And all who watch this show and watch a number of other people who have been trying to tell the truth as they see it, we all know that the war is shaping up as a big victory for Ukraine, and that what's being proven, okay, in the war uh, is that Russian military arms and Russian military strategies have been very superior to those of the collective West. I don't think the Russians have had a lot of trouble, okay, in adapting to some of the very highly thought of weapons, okay, of the West. Uh, okay, there were a number of weapons that were thought of as super weapons before the war that were given to Ukraine to help them fight. There's none of that. Okay, that's helped them It looks increasingly like a rout is going to be shaping up, okay, very soon. So, in the shadow of this, the BRICS conference was held. High level people, and in many cases, the leaders of 50 nations, showed up for this particular conference. It was thought before the conference, there was a lot of hype before the conference that there would be a large number of nations that would be joining BRICS at this time. There were 22 applicants. It was also thought in the run up to the BRICS conference that it was likely, or at least there was a good possibility, that a new currency that might be pegged to gold or even based on gold would be introduced. That did not happen. What also did not happen is that there weren't 22 countries that were let into the BRICS. 6 of the applicants were accepted. BRICS was expanded, okay, to 11 countries. But not to 27 countries. We don't know exactly why not. We know that the BRICS nations were spending time working out the criteria for expansion. We know that. We don't know what those criteria were. They didn't really tell us. But it's pretty clear they have some clear criteria now. They applied those criteria to the 22 applicants. There were 6 applicants that made the first cut. And they were Egypt, Argentina, Ethiopia, and the 4th country was Iran. The 5th was Saudi Arabia, and the 6th was the United Arab Emirates. So, three of the 6 nations, okay, were Arab nations. Okay, there was Iran, there was a Latin American nation, Argentina, second biggest economy, okay, in South America, was taken in, okay, was invited, and will officially become a part of BRICS in January of 2024. Okay, and then, of course, the country, okay, of Ethiopia was the 6th country, okay, that was included. In including the UAE, Saudi, okay, and of course Iran, the BRICS nations were including 3 big producers, okay, of oil. That is very, very important because, of course, another member of the BRICS, specifically Russia, okay, one of the original members, is also, okay, an oil power. So 4 oil powers are now part of the BRICS. And they are set up, of course, to supply plenty of oil to the oil-thirsty countries in the BRICS, particularly India and China, and some of the other new invitees who don't have big resources, okay, in oil. So you can see the 5 BRICS nations were very strategic about who they invited in, trying to strengthen their self-sufficiency when it comes to fossil fuels. They're still going to rely, okay, on fossil fuels, of course, for some time to come. Now, something that has not gotten, okay, a lot of play is that Saudi Arabia has invested a lot in solar power at this point and is trying to make a transition. Its technology in this area could be important to some of the rest of the BRICS states by going forward. Okay. Another thing to note about this, I guess I'm going to have to shift back and forth in terms of the second biggest of the results of the conference. There was no introduction of a new currency. There was agreement that there would be much more trading in local currencies, using those local currencies, not using dollars. That, of course, okay, is very important. So Dee has joined the audience for tonight because she's still having sound problems. So she just said hi to Steve Day. I'm going to go over the comments for a minute. Steve Wolfbrand says, Doc Sabi's pro-Palestinian guest was Miko Peled. I think, okay, it's Nico Peled, but I may be mistaken about that. Do you know him? No, I don't but know him, but I've seen him in lots of interviews. Okay, I've read about him. Okay, I know a lot about him. And he's an excellent person to have on as a pro-Palestinian guest. He's very credible because, of course, he is the Israeli general's son and a former veteran of the Israeli Defense Forces himself. Hang on a second. I have to ask Bonnie something. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so Nico Peled is a very, very good guest, to discuss, okay, the Palestinian issues. Okay, BRICS is forming itself, though, okay, into a bloc. Now has formed itself, okay, into a bloc where at least 3 of the members will be concerned about the plight of the Palestinians. And as BRICS gets stronger, okay, and stronger, there's going to be a lot more pressure on Israel to get rid of these right-wing governments and to do justice to the Palestinians. I don't think BRICS is going to ignore the international justice situation that exists, in Israel. Or perhaps I should label it the international injustice situation which exists, in Israel. But going back to the BRICS conference, so there was no common currency that was introduced. It was decided to move towards a currency by using local currencies for trading and letting the plans for a common currency continue to emerge over a period of time. It was plain that the BRICS members were not ready for a common currency. It could be that India balked when it came to a current currency. Maybe Brazil balked, as well. Because remember, Brazil has been talking about a common currency with Argentina. So they're interested in that, with respect to Argentina. But for now, it may be enough for them to accommodate, to that and not try to do a BRICS currency, at this time. Letting Argentina in was obviously the desire, of Lula, and Brazil, that he wanted a South American partner to be in BRICS with him. Both countries, both Argentina, and also Brazil, have a bit of instability with respect to the commitment, to BRICS, because it's possible that Argentina is going to swing over to the right. The primary elections there did not come out well for the left, this time, unless there's a comeback, in the general, election. It may be they'll be electing, a libertarian who's a partisan of the dollar and who's not going to want to participate, in BRICS. And there's a possible setback, there. Lula himself had a close election. He won, but in a close election. But he and his friends and supporters may have trouble staying in office because the right wing in Brazil is still strong. That's unfortunate. Going back again to the comments, Andy Candy, participating as April Mono, says, "Hi, Joe and friends. So Dmitry Yudkin was a Nazi admirer, huh? Oh, I didn't see that, but that is very interesting. I did not know that. I also don't know exactly why the plane crashed. I'm not really up on that. I wasn't, paying a lot of attention to that. It's all very interesting. But for me, the most important things that were going on this week was the progress the Russians were making, in the war, which continues to be substantial, and the progress that the 5 BRICS nations was making with other nations, which I think is very substantial right now. The 6 nations who joined look like they can add a great deal of influence to the whole block, of BRICS. It's also not clear, it wasn't clear, came out of the conference, that there might not be further inclusions into BRICS over the next 4 or 5 months. It's not really necessary for BRICS to wait until the next summit 1 year from now in Russia, to include any more nations. They might accept applications of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 other nations. Without them coming to a formal conference. We have to see what happens. I don't think that was excluded as a possibility. So we still may see some other nations that are joining. For example, one applicant, was Venezuela. They badly need, to join the BRICS. Guess what? When it comes to Venezuela, they have the most oil reserves in the whole world, in Venezuela. Their oil is not as attractive as the light sweet crude, of Saudi Arabia. But it's still there. And as other oil supplies start to run out, it may come in handy. So there was an incentive for them to wrap in Venezuela also. They didn't do it yet. I think Mexico may have applied, to the BRICS also. There's an obvious incentive to get them in, as well. I don't yet know what's going to happen there. And of course, there are a number of Central Asian countries that want to get in. And there are a number of Southeast Asian countries that are very interested, in getting in. In particular, Indonesia is very interested, in getting in. And they're the 4th largest population, in the world. So obviously, it would be very it would be very desirable for the BRICS to get them in. So that still may happen. Steve Wolfbrand, other comments? Steve Wolfbrand says, sometimes expanding too fast is not the best idea. I agree, Steve. I agree. In some ways, it was wise to restrict the membership to only 6 more nations. But of course, there are competing interests here too. The more nations you get into the bloc, the more weight, it would have in relation to being able to make use of a common currency. So what happened, at the conference was, obviously some people were not ready for, a common currency. And so the original 5 members may have concluded, well, we're not ready for a common currency anyway, so we don't need to have a situation where we have 30 to 40 nations that are accepting a common currency, for international trade. We have time to incorporate other nations. We have time to integrate the 6 nations well within the BRICS, and its projects. So the people who were perhaps most in favor of of starting up a common currency fast, most probably China, okay, and Russia, probably thought, well, okay, we have time to wait. We have time to expand to 30 nations or something like that. If we need to let in a few more right now, we can do so in the next 2 or 3 months and expand to maybe 15 nations. That will be impressive enough. Okay, Dolores says, hello, Stephen Day. Steve Day says, every nation onto its own currency. That's good if every nation has its own sovereign currency. It's not so good if they don't actually have a sovereign currency. Those nations that owe large amounts of debts in currencies not their own don't have a sovereign currency. So specifically in Argentina's case, it does not have a sovereign currency. Insofar as other BRICS nations owe large quantities of money to the World Bank or the IMF, they don't have sovereign currencies either. And he says, shoot, but the BRICS nations are hardliners as well. Why would they oppose Israel? Well, they may be hardliners, but they're interested in justice for the Palestinians. I mean, obviously, the Chinese are. At various times, they've expressed great concern for the Palestinians, and they're actually doing economic deals with the Palestinians as we speak, talking about incorporating them into the Belt and Road Initiative. So China has a concern. Yes, all these nations that have been incorporated are hardline nations. But there are differences, among the hardline nations. They're hardline, in different ways. I think what you mean by a hardline nation, is a nation which is basically a dictatorship or authoritarian, in various ways. Authoritarianism, not the same thing, as fascism. For example, you cannot accuse China of being, a fascist nation because it does not collude with corporations to maximize their profits, at the expense, of their people. China seems to be a nation that adheres to people over profits. Yes, it's authoritarian, in many ways, but it's consultative, in many ways too. The Communist Party of China, operates in many areas on the basis of bottom-up kinds, of principles. Not the kind of democracy we have, but there are very strong democratic and consensus elements in there. And Xi Jinping is far from a dictator. And people who know Russia also know that as powerful as he is and as authoritarian, as he is, and as mafia-like, as he is, that Putin, is not exactly a dictator. He's far from it, in many ways. And it would be a good thing if the United States could recognize that particular reality. The other thing to recognize is that most of the nations of the world are hardline nations, one way or another. So yeah, the BRICS are wrapping in hardline nations, but they're also wrapping in large economies that are developing and that have a lot of promise. I I should point out here, the population of Egypt is 109 million people, so it's quite large. The population of Ethiopia is 105 million people. It is quite large. The population of Iran, is 87 million people. It is quite large. With just those three nations, the BRICS have added 300 million people to their ranks. There are another 47 million people, in Argentina. Saudi is relatively small, with 32 million people. The smallest of the nations, population-wise, is the United Arab Emirates. They have only 9 million people. But if you include Argentina, Saudi, and the UAE, and the other 300 million we talked about, we're getting near 400 million more people that was added to the BRICS bloc. So that's quite a chunk to join, the group. And it's also geographically spread out. It's, very heavy on the Middle East, of course, but also South America, is involved. And Iran is involved. So it's expanded to other parts of the world where it was not previously strong. This is very advantageous to the Belt and Road Initiative of China. And that should not be lost here. That's a very important outcome, of the conference, and what it did. Steve Day says, I have to go chat with my Palestinian pen pal. He rang just now. Okay, Steve. And then he says, oh, wait, my bad. I forget about Lula. He's not a hardliner. No, Lula's not a hardliner. And also, among the new countries, Argentina is still a democracy, of sorts. And Egypt has elements of democracy within it, as well. So they're not all hardliners. And of course, South Africa has substantial democratic elements in it as well. And India also has still substantial democratic elements in it. It is possible for Modi to lose an election. He may lose the next one. I don't think that means they're going to withdraw from BRICS, because I think BRICS is in line with the historical neutrality, of India. So I think that, is very important. So BRICS has added nations that offer a lot of value from a trade standpoint, and also from a standpoint of needing to develop and needing to shed the influence of the colonial West and of the collective West. And from that point of view, I think the outcomes of the conference, okay, are very impressive. They push forward the agenda, okay, of de-dollarization. Now, okay, I want to say something about that. I think the speculation in leading up to the conference, touting very heavily the possibility of getting a new currency that would be based on gold, that you saw a lot of touting of that from people who are connected with or to gold in some way. They made big investments in gold themselves, or they feel very friendly to countries that think we ought to go back on the gold standard. Quite a lot of the commentators who were talking about this had gold as part of their portfolios. So they were trying to say to the rest of the world, oh, BRICS is going to go gold. And our gold and your gold, if you buy some now, is going to be worth a lot more. They had personal interests in touting a transition to a currency that would be gold backed in some way. In a previous live stream of mine, I pointed out that while the currency of the new currency might be pegged to gold in terms of, okay, it's daily valuable, it would be pegged to gold, but gold itself would be free floating. So there wouldn't be any fixed amount that could be traded for gold, which was the arrangement that came out of Bretton Woods, where the United States committed to maintaining a gold standard at, uh, I think in the beginning it was $32 an ounce. I forget if it was $32 an ounce or $35 an ounce. It was a fixed rate peg to gold. But what BRICS was looking at was a peg to gold, which would itself be allowed to freely float. So the BRICS currency was going to be a fiat currency that was going to be floating day to day. It's just that the standard that would be floating would not be the dollar, it would be gold. But there was no, as far as I can tell, I don't think there was ever any intention to back it by gold in terms of creating an arrangement where you could trade BRICS currency, go to a gold window somewhere, turn in your BRICS currency, and get gold instead. I don't think they were ever committing to that. I don't think they're ever going to commit to that in the future. Okay, either. Steve Wolfbrand says hi again at 9:19. And he says Cuba should be in BRICS. Yes, I absolutely think that Cuba should be in BRICS. They would benefit a lot from being in BRICS. And I think people tend to benefit from having a relationship with Cuba because of the activities of their doctors in the international system, because of the medical research they do, because of the work they've done with vaccines. In other words, their vaccines are not based on, the mRNA technology. They're actually based on older technology, at least in theory. So they may not have the long-term side effects that we see with the COVID vaccines. It may be that in the long run, the Cuban vaccines prove to be the more useful vaccines, the safer vaccines to use over a period of time. Now, I'm just speculating on this. I can't give, any medical advice, and I'm not a medical researcher, generally speaking. So I'm simply speculating about this. Steve Day says, in Gaza chat, please message to me the post IDF now pro-Palestinian name. I think it's Nico Peled, Nikopeled. But D, if you're here, you can correct me if I'm wrong, okay? And it's Miko Peled. But I think, okay, it's Nico Peled with an N. Steve Wolfman says, hi, Jeffrey and Andy. And Andy says, hey, Wolfman. Andy says, oops. Steve Wolfbrand. He says that Wolfie is my nickname. Laugh out loud. Well, evidently, Wolfie was Mozart's nickname, too. At least in the film. And he says, oh, that's so cute. I want to give pets. Robert Copeland says, if Mexico joins BRICS, then they better be doing something about their drug cartels, as the United States will not allow drugs coming to the United States, okay, from Mexico. If Mexico joined BRICS, there would probably be a lot more tension with the United States than there is now. Robert says that there should be illegal drugs. Steve Wolfbrand says, not to mention India just landed on the moon. Yeah, they landed on the south pole of the moon. Steve says, hello, Robert. Robert says, hi, Steve. Smash the like button. Indeed, smash the like button. And please buy me a coffee, too. Could they have a sovereign currency for domestic spending and a current currency for trading amongst themselves at the same time? Yes, they indeed could have those. That is certainly possible. Certainly possibility. I think that was the plan of BRICS. It was one of the plans that was being put forward for their sovereign currency, that it would just be a trading currency. What there might be some difficulty with is if countries are not already sovereign, but have lots and lots of debt that they owe in dollars, okay, or in euros. Then, for trading purposes, okay, it might be a big advantage of them to do business in some other currency, and to do business in a common currency that has nothing to do, okay, with a dollar. And Robert says, what would the new currency be valued at? If it had been introduced, it probably would be pegged to gold in some way. Like maybe 1 brick to 1 ounce of gold or something like that. Doc, but get Miko Peled, okay, on your show. Okay, I think that's really for D, because generally speaking, I don't concentrate my shows on the Israeli-Palestinian issue. The shows I have are, of course, the Dump the Corruption shows. Okay, I suppose Nico could be part of that show because we could talk about the influence, okay, of the pro-Israel groups on elections here in the United States. I'm sure he's very, very familiar with that. But when I do the international shows, they're generally based on the effects, the impact, okay, of the Ukrainian war, okay, the impacts of the formation of these new international groupings, okay, on the movement towards a multipolar world. Like that's what I usually talk about on the Tuesday show, which is this very show because I postponed it for this week from Tuesday through Thursday. Okay, then I have a neoliberalism show. Okay, Nico Peled would not easily fit in to that show. So I could do a special show with him, but I'm not really so much focused in, okay, on Israel. I spend at least 4 nights a week where I'm talking about the Palestinians, okay, and the Israelis on D's show, and that's fine. But I don't want to let that spill over to my shows because Dump the Corruption is so important. Okay, and the effects of neoliberalism still happening in this country is so important. And of course, the impact, okay, of Ukraine war in helping to reorder the international system is also so very, very important. So I'm not looking to be drowned by the Palestinian, the Israeli situation. I mean, I hate what's going on there. I can hate it all I want, but from my point of view, there are much more important things to focus on, such as avoiding World War III, such as the development of a multipolar system in international relations, such as the end of neoliberalism here, and such as uh, the dump the corruption focus, which is so important for 2024 here. For me personally, those are all more important issues than the Palestinian Israeli issue. I mean, I think you can feel how much I despise what the Israelis have done to the Palestinians. But I don't want my strong emotions on that to start to dominate my shows because there's so much else to talk about. So that's all I'm going to say about this. I doubt that I will ever have Nico Peled on my show, just as a result of that. Okay, so Steve says, okay, D says, okay, it's Miko. Okay, thank you for correcting me. Okay, Miko, but same difference. Okay, I respect his work and what he's done. Okay, I read some of it, but I'm not looking for him to be a guest on my show. Most probably, okay, other than the guests that I normally deal with who are part of that group, the next one who's likely to be a guest on my show is probably Robert Hockett. Uh, he has such a broad range of knowledge when it comes to the issues that I'm talking about. And he's expressed an interest in coming on, so I'll be trying to arrange that. Okay, in the near future, I think he and I'll have a wonderful conversation. Doc, the Cornell West opinions. I love the policy stances, okay, of Cornell West. I'm with him on the policy stances, okay, all the way. I think we could do a lot worse when it comes to being to picking, okay, a president of the United States. When it comes to policy stances, I'm closer to Cornell West than anybody else. Okay, who's running right now? Uh, when it comes to Cornell West, I have doubts that he'd be good at running the federal government and overcoming all of the figurative bombs that would be put in his way by all the various interest groups. I don't see him being able to manage that well. I think we need someone who's tough, who's strong, and who is capable, okay, of playing the politics, and who has very good policy positions, okay, as well. I'm not sure that person has emerged, okay, as yet. On the management end of things, the candidate I like best, who's up there now, okay, is actually Robert Kennedy. But don't like his position on Israel. I don't like the Medicare for All position that he's taken. Uh, and those two things are very, very important to me. So right now, I would much rather focus on the dump the corruption issue and urge Robert Kennedy to change and do nothing but a small dollar donation campaign. I know if he does that, then it's possible to raise enough money to win the primaries. So I think it is practical to do that. Don't accept his excuse that you don't bring a knife to a gunfight. I can understand that. I have some sympathy for that. But I don't think the candidate that we elect can be a candidate that has sold out to the big interests. So I don't like his stance on that. So there are three major issues which I don't like his stances on. And there may be a fourth. I think I'm forgetting a fourth issue at this point. So maybe you guys can suggest, okay, what it is, knowing how I feel about things. Steve Day says it's a long running conflict. I feel good helping my pal directly and conversing nearly every day. Steve Day says, that's good, Steve. Steve says, dump the corruption, 2024. Doc, did you see Biden in Hawaii? How disgusting was that? It was awful. Biden is so disgusting. I can't believe it. He just gets more disgusting every day. It's just a situation where, when it comes to disgusting, it's hard to choose between Trump and Biden as to who is the more disgusting. Steve Wolbrand, says Bitcoin. No, not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not a currency. Okay, I think a currency has to be a freely floating a fiat currency. That's the only thing that's going to work in international situation over a period of time. It's the only thing that's going to create the flexibility needed to do high levels, okay, of international trading. I think the problem with gold is the problem that's always existed with gold. Its supply, okay, is limited. You can't base a country, can't base a currency on that, okay, in the sense of offering to trade gold for the currency. That's just impractical. Now, you could peg a currency to the variations in the value of gold from day to day. That's practical. That could be done. And you could do the same, okay, with Bitcoin. But why use Bitcoin? I mean, I just don't see, if you're going to do that, why use Bitcoin? Oh, Bitcoin as one of RFK's problems. I don't think he really has a problem that he wants to switch to the Bitcoin currency. I think he's just in support of the Bitcoiners being allowed to do their trading. Okay, I don't know if I have any opposition to that because I think it's just a speculative activity. I suppose I have opposition to it because it's just a purely speculative activity, okay, from my point of view, and I don't think that too much speculation should have a place, okay, in our system. So let me wind this up in terms of the impact of the conference. It's significant and wonderful that they expanded from 5 members, okay, to 11 members. It would have been even more wonderful if they had expanded by another 5 members. Let's say Venezuela, Cuba, Indonesia, and maybe 2 Central Asian countries. I think that would have been, okay, even more wonderful. Okay, and getting Indonesia in there, you'd be expanding by 700 million people then, or 800 million people then. So that would be very good in terms of looking towards the future. So I think the expansion should have been greater. and it would have been more impressive if it was greater. I think them holding off on the common currency right now was wise because I don't think their members were quite ready to go with a common currency for trading. It remains to be seen whether it's enough to just urge them to trade, in local currency. Now, the trend on that is good. I mean, obviously, in recent years, the amount of trading that uses the dollar has declined from 72% to 58%. So trading in local currencies has momentum behind it. It's very likely that in the next 10 years, if they just trade in local currency, that 58% is going to become less than 50%. And so then it won't be possible to say that the dollar is the reserve currency of the world anymore. And that's probably what they want to be able to say. So I think those two things are probably good outcomes of the conference. There's a question from Andy who asks, I wonder what qualifications to join BRICS are, or did I miss that part? I don't think they stated what the qualifications are. I don't know if they're ready to make that public yet. Yeah, because I think they're doing this. They have a set of qualifications in mind. Okay, but if a country is particularly strong in some area they want to be strong in, they don't hesitate to bring that country in. For example, the UAE only has 9 million people. One of their qualifications was supposed to be that they were incorporating countries that were populous. Now, that qualification was fulfilled by Egypt, and Ethiopia, and Iran. Okay, so 3 of the 6. But it wasn't fulfilled, by Argentina. God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, and the UAE. God bless you again.
Thank you.
Okay. And so they were willing to depart from that criterion in order to incorporate countries that they would be strategic in some way. They obviously wanted Argentina because Lula wanted Argentina, and because Argentina was the second biggest economy in South America. And so they wanted that. And so they were willing to overlook the populist criterion for that. And in the future, if they incorporated a lot of the Central Asian countries, they would have sizable populations, but not, in the 100 million range necessarily. Okay, in Indonesia's case, they would be pulling in a really big country. If they incorporated, let's say, Pakistan, Pakistan has another a huge population. So we have to see where they go. There are other countries with populations, still a number of other countries with populations that are over 100 million. that might fulfill that particular criterion. But there are many other countries that are strategic in some way that they might look to incorporate, into BRICS. Okay, for example, Singapore, relatively small country, but very strategic in the trading area, in the finance area. So, okay, also Vietnam, that's a populous country, exceeding $100 million. Sorry, 100 million people. Sorry. Steve says BRICS, slow but steady growth is best. Oh, Andy Candy says that sounds like Iris sneezes. I don't know what Iris sneezes are, but that is Bonnie sneezing in the background. I don't think she has a cold or anything. No. I think it's just a runny nose. Yeah. Steve Wolfbrand says, so the idea is BRICS versus EU, NATO, and American Empire? No, I think it's more like BRICS against the G7. Okay, there are other organizations being set up by the out countries, other institutions that are very important. For example, the new development bank, which is the BRICS Bank, is very, very important and better capitalized than the World Bank and the IMF. There is no military alliance which these countries, that were on the outs have talked about yet. There's close military cooperation between Russia and Iran and China, obviously. But there's still no formal alliance, and there may never be, a formal alliance. They haven't been talking about that. In fact, they almost are saying, we're so close that we don't even need to have a formal alliance. But when it comes to collaboration, you not only have to talk about BRICS, but the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is very, very important. That's the organization in back of the Belt and Road Initiative. And lots of countries of Central Asia and Western Asia, have joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. That's going to be getting bigger and bigger, as well. And that's going to be heavily collaborating with BRICS, in the trading area. So it's going to be BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, I would say, and the new development bank versus the collective West. The collective West being the Eurozone, and NATO, and of course, including the United States, maybe including the AUKUS alliance, in Asia also, which is Australia, Japan. I think the United States is in there as well, and South Korea. I believe those are the four nations in that. I may be mistaken. I've kind of forgotten what the four nations are. And Andy Candy says, maybe it's more like BRICS versus imperialism, Steve, just guessing. It is BRICS versus imperialism, but it's Also the Shanghai Cooperation versus Imperialism, and the BRICS Bank, the New Development Bank versus Imperialism. Steve says, agreed, BRICS is not, okay, a military alliance. There may be military alliances that grow out of it um, um, in parallel. I think BRICS is getting close to the African organizations, the African institutions. I think it's getting close in terms of trading relationships. It's also getting close in incorporating, some of the African countries now. South Africa, Egypt, okay, and Ethiopia, and there are now three rather sizable um, African countries in BRICS. So, okay, let me reflect and see whether, okay, I'm finished for tonight. I think I do have to mention, okay, I should mention that I don't think that you can underemphasize the importance to BRICS of the Russians winning the war in Ukraine. You saw some of the interaction there because since the war is going well for the Russians, it was able to speak to the needs of BRICS nations in Africa for grain. And Putin announced at BRICS that for the poor nations of Africa, there was going to be free grain from Russia and free shipping from Russia, and a promise that whatever happens to Ukraine, that Russia can fulfill all the food needs, okay, of Africa. So that was a big promise. I think Russia and Putin are capable of keeping it. And I think it was very important for what BRICS is trying to do in terms of incorporating Africa. And Andy says, shared. I'm going to say goodnight right now. Stay well, all. Steve says, what does winning actually mean, okay, in Ukraine? Well, what I think it means, okay, is for Russia to fulfill its original goals for Ukraine, which were the neutralization, okay, of Ukraine, the demilitarization of Ukraine, and the denazification, okay, of Ukraine. I think Russia still has quite a ways to go to complete the denazification of Ukraine and to ensure, okay, the neutralization, okay, of Ukraine. But I think it's gone pretty far already to the demilitarization, okay, of Ukraine. I don't think Ukraine has much less, has very much capability left. And I think the war will be ending relatively soon. I think there is going to be a big Russian offensive very soon, which will bring the fighting to a close and put the Russians in a position that they'll be able to dictate terms unless the collective West decides they're not going to back off, that they're going to escalate by actually putting Western troops on the ground, in Ukraine. That would be a very, very dangerous escalation. And I think would really threaten the whole world. If that happened, would be very, very unwise. I have to say, I don't think in the end that Biden's going to do that. He's going to recognize that that's really not what they bargained for. What they've been bargaining for is a proxy war to weaken Russia and maybe break up war. Maybe break up Russia. Going and putting boots on the ground means it's no longer a proxy war. I don't think Biden is ready for that. I don't think the neocons, are ready for that. From their point of view, the whole beauty of the neocon vision was that it would be a proxy war, and it would not be a direct war, and there would not be any American bodies coming home in body bags. So I think they're resistant to going that far. I think they're ready to back off. And I think if Russia delivers a knockout blow to the military, in Ukraine, that Ukraine will then be advised by the West to make a peace and get what you can get. And I think Putin will be willing to make a peace with them, that in return for neutralization and maybe denazification, that he might be willing to allow the existence of the nation of Ukraine, of course, a rump nation of Ukraine, to continue to exist. But I think he's in the position of pretty much calling the tune there. So Andy Candy says, I ordered Russian lymph detox packages from China. They are wonderful, just a little over $2. What are Russian lymph detox patches from China? And he says, night of Wolfie. Yeah. After Wolfie says good night, Andy. So, Andy, what are lymph detox patches? Curious about that. Well, I'll wait for another 30 seconds for an answer from Andy. If no answer, then I'll assume she's gone. And I think I'm ready to say goodnight as well. Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying. And for listening to my analysis, of BRICS. Here they go. They are palatable detox patches that I cut and patch over my sinuses. Don't know what's in them, but Tenu has them. Is it Tenu Okay, or Temu, Temu. I'm not sure. Anyway, thank you, Andy, for answering the question. Ah, Temu. It is Temu. Temu. Okay. Okay, thanks, Andy. She says good stuff. Ah. Okay, thanks a lot. That may be a help to us. So I'm going to say goodnight now. I'll be back tomorrow with the Dump the Corruption show. We're going to go over some more of the interest groups and what they spend. And we're also going to go over the outside spending. Very substantial outside spending, okay, in that area that's cataloged by Open Secrets. So it'll be another Open Secrets program, Dump the Corruption program tomorrow night. And I hope to see you all there. So thanks very much, and good night, everybody.